Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnana Dhimirandhasya Jnana Janashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Amriteshwarye Namaha Om Amriteshwarye Namaha Om Amriteshwarye Namaha. Om Amriteshwarye Namaha. We'll begin with a short meditation. Kindly sit straight. Make sure your vertebral column, your spinal column is erect. And slowly close your eyes. Watch your breath for a couple of minutes, trying to gather your mind from wandering away to the sense objects and into the sensual world. By concentrating on your breath, just breathing normally, but fully aware of each and every inhalation and exhalation that occurs through your body. And if there is any tension in any part of the body, just release it as it arises. And now we'll chant Om 3 times. And as we chant Om, imagine the sound of Om to arise from your navel area and visualize the sound traveling upwards along your spine, cleansing the body, the mind, and the atmosphere around you. Feel the reverberations of Om, each and every part of your whole being, your body, and your mind. Now, slowly start observing your breath. And now, as you breathe in, chant the syllable Ma along with your in breath. And Om when you breathe out. Ma when you breathe in, and Om when you breathe out. Ma is a representation of divine love, and Om of divine light. You need not visualize light and love, but just feel the reverberations of the vibrations of love and light when you breathe in and out, chanting Ma and Om. Slowly and slowly, the reverberations of Ma and Om become more and more subtle. You can just feel the vibrations of Ma when you breathe in, and Om when you breathe out. Feel the peace, the contentment, the silence of the mind, the love and the light in your heart. And imagine the light going out from your heart to all the beings in this world, just like the rays of the sun. And as the light falls on each and every one of them, imagine they also become more loving, more compassionate, and more blissful and more peaceful. While imagining so, we'll chant the Loka Samastha prayer 9 times. Om Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Dhyayamo Dhvlavagunthanavatim Tejomayim Naishtikim Snigdha Pangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmidashri Mukhim Valsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shamangi Madhusikta Suktim Amritanandatmikam Ishwarim. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parambaram Srude Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Nandau Punah Punah Ishwarau Gururakmedi Murti Veda Vibhagini Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Amriteshwaryaye Namaha. Om Amriteshwaryaye Namaha. Om Amriteshwaryaye Namaha. I'm apologizing for the very rudimentary settings, all the video settings and the audio settings today because of all the constrictions that we have here at the ashram in India. So, my apologies. So, just wanted to continue from the last session and give you a summary of what was said in the last class. We were saying the part where it talks about Lord Shiva and the Daksha Yaga or the Daksha Yajna. And I was telling you where Amma was talking about Daksha's Yajna becoming a war, and Arjuna's Yajna, which was a war, becoming an Yajna. So this is the story to illustrate that, the Daksha Yajna part. And so we saw that Sati Devi was the wife of Rudra, that's Lord Shiva, was the daughter of Daksha. And I just wanted to add one more thing here, was that why in Bhagavata it talks about Lord Shiva is, that there is no difference between Shiva and Lord Vishnu. So Hari and Hara are one and the same. So you must have heard Hari Hara, the name Hari Hara. So that is the combination of Vishnu and Shiva. So it's one and the same entity, which or the consciousness, which has manifested in different forms. So we should not get entangled with the fact that there is different names and forms, but it's the same consciousness which different forms and names of the divine. And so Sati Devi is the daughter of Daksha, and Daksha Prajapati, who is this, the one of these sons of Brahma, who was created by Brahma, and she was married. Sati Devi was married to Lord Shiva, Rudra, and one time when Lord Shiva was invited to the yajna of Daksha, he did not stand up, and then Daksha got so irritated by that the only two people who did not stand up was his father Brahma, the creator, and Shiva, his son-in-law. So being his son-in-law, Daksha was expecting some respect from Lord Shiva, who is the embodiment of the Supreme Consciousness. Whereas for Lord Shiva, everybody was one and the same, and he did not care whether one was greater or one was lesser. Just like Amma regards all of us as the manifestation of the Supreme, and she does not differentiate in her love to each and every one of us. Lord Shiva did not care about standing up and showing respect, because as far as Lord Shiva is concerned, Daksha is his own self. So Daksha got angry because of his ego, and then he cursed Lord Shiva, saying that he will not receive that any of the sacrificial offerings that is made in the homas or during the yajna. So in the yajna, so saying earlier, there is the offerings to different deities. So he said he put a stop to offering Lord Shiva any of the offerings during the yajna. So when Nandiswara, who is the commander general of Lord Shiva's army, heard this, Nandiswara is like the bull that sits in front of Lord Shiva, as you must have gone to see the Shiva temples. And Nandiswara is always focused on Shiva. He doesn't care about anything else. If you see that, it's always facing the Lord Shiva's vigraha or the statue. So when Nandishwara heard Daksha's curse, he also pronounced a curse, saying that may this ignorant person, who's Daksha, entrenched in his self-esteem, and who's also insulting a divinity. So he's saying that he said, let him lose his spiritual consciousness completely and become animal-like and engrossed with women, and may his face be soon turned into that of a goat. And as you can see, later on this will follow. And what is the significance of the face of the goat? So the person who has a goat-like face is showing that he has more animalistic tendencies than that of a human being. And what is so peculiar about the human being is that they have the ability to identify divinity, and in whatever form it appears, and have the discrimination, and also the discrimination to walk on the path towards divinity. So here, what Daksha did was just the opposite. He not only didn't want to recognize the divinity in Lord Shiva, thinking and just reducing him into the body in which he was. Lord Shiva was his son-in-law, and not only that, he did not give the proper respect to Lord Shiva. So thus a person who does not either comprehend or show respect to the divinity can become an animal-like person, is what is indicated through this. So as Nandishwara gave this curse, Bhrigu, who was the high priest, also pronounced a curse, hearing this curse on the families of the Brahmanas or the priests. So he said that let the worshippers of Lord Shiva turn into the adoration of liquor and other kinds of intoxicants. And they do not, also he said, they will become hostile to Vedas and scriptures, and they will become atheists. So because they have insulted the Veda and its custodians. So he pronounced that curse, and which some is even true nowadays, as I was saying in the last session, that when you go to the Himalayas, there are people who are smeared in ash and thinking that Lord Shiva was having intoxicants, and he used to smoke marijuana and drink liquor, and so they have degraded into that kind of a worshipping tradition, which is we can see today that Bhrigu's curse has of course taken place even after thousands of years. And this what happened was many years passed like this, and when Brahma, the supreme ruler, appointed Daksha as the leader of all the Prajapatis, his ego became terribly swollen. And without caring at all for those established in the knowledge of Brahman, he finished the preliminary sacrifice called Vajabeya and started the performance of Brihas Padisava. So that is another yajna, a big yajna. And in that assembly, all the Brahma Rishis, Deva Rishis, Pitris means all the ancestral beings, and Devas were present with their wives in the festive dress. And Sati Devi now had heard the large number of Devas passing by her residence at Kailasa, where she was with Lord Shiva, about the sacrificial festival that was going on in her father's house. And also saw that many of these devas were going along with their wives, decorated with necklaces, earrings, and silken dresses. And so you could just imagine, they had adorned their body with the best dresses because it was a huge assembly. So everybody wanted to show that they are very beautiful and show off the presence of their bodies rather than the purity of mind. So you can just think about what kind of a yajna it would be. And then they were also traveling in the aerial vehicles. So in those days, they still had planes, and planes, as I was saying in the last session, it is known as Vimana. Vimana means one that can fly through air. Vyoma Ana, that is Vimana. So which can fly through air. So they had these vehicles, and they were passing through the Mount Kailasa. And so, as I was also mentioning last time, they had all these advanced techniques and also the capability of using these things. And as mentioning last time, sometimes it was mentioned that the Pushpaka Vimana, that is the plane which was carrying Ravana, could travel at the speed of the mind. So they had that kind of a technology also. So when Sati Devi was standing at Kailasa, she saw all these people going, and they also had the ability to, stop the plane at any moment. And so they were chit-chatting, and Sati Devi was asking them where they are going. So they explained that, oh, don't you know that your father is conducting a great yajna? So Sati Devi did not want to ridicule her father or belittle her father by telling them that she and Lord Shiva were not invited for the yajna. So she said, "Oh yeah, yes, I do remember. Yes, I will come later for the yajna. Oh, so you're all going for the yajna. Oh, that's good." And like that, she talked to them and sent them away. And now she goes to Lord Shiva and talks to Lord Shiva because she has an intense desire to attend this yajna, even though she and her husband, Lord Shiva, were not invited. Invitations were not sent to them. Invitations were sent to everyone except the couple. And Daksha was doing it purposely to ridicule Lord Shiva. So she goes to Lord Shiva, and because of her intense desire to attend the yajna, sacrifice, the ceremony, she goes to Lord Shiva and appeals to him. And she says, "Oh Lord, a great yajna has already been started by your father-in-law, Daksha Prajapati." So she's very diplomatically putting it, saying that it is your father-in-law, Daksha Prajapati, who is conducting this yajna and not my father. So she's trying to kind of please Lord Shiva. And she says, if it pleases you, both of us shall attend it. As these devas are still bound for it, we can be sure that it is not over. It is certain that my sisters with their husbands will be going over there, as it will give them an opportunity to meet all their friends and relatives together at one time. Along with you, I too desire to take part in these festivities. So I shall see there my sisters with their well matched husbands, my aunties, and my beloved mother, all of whom I have been desiring to see for a long time. And besides, my Lord, I can also witness the great sacrificial rite that will be performed by reputed Maharshis. So here she's saying, whenever we have so many of our desires, we try to uh, hide those desires into the wants of others, and we pretend as if it's not ours but it is their desire. So similarly here, Sati Devi is saying that it will give you an opportunity to meet all her sisters, families, and all these things. And she's saying that uh, along with you, I too desire to take part in these festivities. So she's imposing her desire on Lord Shiva's desire. And she's as projecting it as if it is his desire. And so she said, that's why she says, along with you, I too desire to take part in these festivities. And plus, there will be the reputed Maharshis, all these great sages and saints. And oh, divine being, this wonderful world constituted of the three gunas of Prakriti has been brought into existence and is being sustained by you. Therefore, nothing in it can evoke wonder in you. But it is not so with me, a mere woman, without any knowledge of the truth. I intensely desire to see the place of my birth. O birthless one, see how even strange ladies unrelated to us are going there, in numbers, with their husbands bedecked with all their finery. Their numerous milk white aerial vehicles above make one feel that the sky is filled with white swans. Under these circumstances, how can a daughter remain at home and not go to her father's place? So now she changes her tone and she says, she's supplicating to Lord Shiva and saying that, oh, you are, the the creator who has brought into existence and sustained the wonderful world constituted of the three gunas of the Prakriti, the three qualities of the Prakriti, which is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. But look at me, I'm just a woman without the knowledge of the truth. So what can I do? I do not understand what the truth is, what the scriptures say. So, but I have this intense desire to see the place of my birth. And she's here, there is a contradiction. And she's saying, I want to see my place of birth. And then she's indirectly indicating that Lord Shiva does not have any such desires. So she calls him, O birthless one. So one who is beyond birth. So if one doesn't have a birth even, then where is the place of birth? So I was just reminded of Vedantin, who was once asked to fill a form and so he was filling up this form. So name. So uh, you know, he wrote no name, Anami. That is, I don't have a name. And so he was filling up this government form. So then, date of birth. So he said not known. And then place of birth. So it says, then he wrote there saying that no place or everywhere. So when he handed it over to the manager looked at it and said, "Oh, it seems like you have gone beyond all the needs of your body. So I don't think you need any of these things. So goodbye, and keep your application." So it's like that. So she's saying that you know I have an intense desire to see my place of birth, but you are birthless, so you don't have a place. And you see how these strange ladies, and who are not even related to us, traveling in their white aerial vehicles, and wearing all this fine jewelry and dress. So it seems like the sky is filled with swan. So she says, under these circumstances, how can a daughter remain at home and not go to her father's place? So she's saying, I'm a daughter, and look at what's happening in my father's place. So shouldn't I go there? And then she gives all the arguments. Now she's setting up all the arguments because Lord Shiva was not invited. And she also was not invited for the yajna because of Lord Shiva. So she says now, if the objection is that there is no invitation, it is well known that good men go to the houses of their friends even without an invitation. So also they go to the house of a husband, a teacher, or a father. O divine being, be gracious to me. It behoves you to fulfill my request. Though all knowing, have you not assumed me as half of your body and thus become Ardhanarishwara, a deity who is half woman and half man? So please grant me this prayer. So now she's supplicating, is saying that, like, as I said, giving arguments saying that if even if you are not invited, you can go to the houses of their friends, and you can go to the house of a husband, a teacher, and of a father without any invitation and prior warning. And she also says, please fulfill my request, because have you not assumed, half of your body as a woman and the other half as man, which is known as Ardhanarishwara. So that's what she's saying when she says indirectly to Lord Shiva that you are half woman, half man, that you have to understand the pain of a woman. So Lord Shiva now speaks, and Maitreya said, Sri Rudra, the Lord of the mountains, on being thus addressed by his wife, recalled to his mind all the heart-piercing words of abuse that Daksha had spoken in the assembly of the Prajapatis, and replied smilingly to her, O good-natured lady, that good people visit the homes of their relatives, even uninvited, is true, where one is sure that they are not people who would find imaginary faults and wrongs in others at the dictation of their own excessively egoistic and violent disposition. Learning, austerity, wealth, a healthy body, youth, and noble birth, though these shine as virtues in basically good people, they assume a contrary nature in evil minded ones. These develop in them an overweening pride and egoism which make them insensitive to the goodness and power in spiritual personages. There are, there are perverted people who frown and cast unwelcome looks at their guests. Never should one even look at their houses under the mistaken notion that they are relatives. The sufferings of one wounded by the arrow of an enemy are nothing compared to what a man subjected day and night to the taunting and heart piercing words of relatives has got to stand. I know very well that among his daughters you are the dearest to that leader of Prajapatis. Yet I am sure he will not give you a cordial welcome or extend the consideration due to the daughter because he abhors your relationship with me. So Lord Shiva is explaining to Sati Devi that look, what you may be saying is correct. But before that, he recalls all the abuses that he received from Daksha years ago. So then, not having any kind of vengeance to Daksha, but just understanding that, what his disposition of his mind will be if they attend the sacrifice. Lord Shiva is explaining to Sati Devi that, oh, good natured lady, that it is true that good people will visit the homes of their relatives even uninvited. And but you have to be sure that they would not find imaginary faults and wrongs in others. And they also will not dictate their excessively egoistic and violent disposition. So these are the things that we have to be careful when we visit the houses of relatives or of our friends and our even our close relatives like our fathers or uncles and all these things. So he's saying it's true, but they should not find imaginary faults and wrongs in you, and they should not also be excessively egoistic and violent in their disposition. And he says, now he explains, like, how does egoism come? And how does ego manifest? So he says these are the things: learning, austerity, wealth, a healthy body, youth, and noble birth. So these are the virtues in basically good people, as well as in bad people also, or evil-minded ones. But in the good people, it actually cultivates humility. So through this learning, through even though they are wealthy, they are of noble birth, this develops, these qualities develop humility in them. Whereas for evil-minded ones or people who have a contrary nature, it makes them develop an overweening pride and egoism. So because of what? So what is the problem with that? Because it makes them insensitive to the goodness and power in spiritual saints and sages or personages. So what happens is, because of this egoism, they tend to not see the goodness and power in spiritual personalities. And so he's saying they are perverted people, so who frown and cast unwelcome look at their guests. So what happens is, because of this, they just keep frowning and they do not welcome their guests, even especially the saints and the sages. So they should be welcomed in the right manner. So, they should be welcomed with the Pada Puja, giving them this due respect. So, this is what happens if you do not welcome a great spiritual personality. Uh, it is not good for them. It's not that the spiritual people will care about the welcome that they receive. So he says, never should one even look at their houses under the mistaken notion that they are relatives. So don't think they are relatives. They're not even relatives. So if don't even go there. And he says, like what happens if you go there? The sufferings of one wounded by the arrows of an enemy are nothing compared to what a man subjected day and night to the taunting and heart piercing words of relatives has got to stand. So even when you got shot by the arrows of an enemy, in the pain, that pain is nothing compared to the heart piercing words of relatives who do not like you. So see this. That's why Amma says, when we speak, we have to be really careful and how and what we speak. Otherwise, these words have a more penetrative power than the arrows. Especially the arrows only hit the body, and the pain we know the amount of pain that the body suffers. But when the piercing words, they go into our heart and the mind and hit the mind, we can very well understand how much of a problem it will bring. And we will be brooding and we will be thinking and again and again worrying about why did he or why did she say like that, and what did I do and what did they do, and we'll be thinking for days together about these words, which brings about more and more misery. So he's saying that's why don't go to the house of relatives who will ridicule you. And I know very well that among his daughters, you are the dearest. So I know that you are Daksha's dearest daughter. And why? He will not extend a cordial welcome because of me, your relationship with me. So he hates that. And he says there is a type of self-important and worldly-minded man whose heart aches with jealousy and hatred at great ones established in spiritual consciousness because he cannot obtain the status and recognition that the latter get. It is just like the hatred of the asuras towards Sri Hari. So Sri Hari, that is Lord Vishnu, was hated by the asuras. Why? Because they could not get that stature of spiritual consciousness, just like he has. Sri Hari is Lord Vishnu. And so the asuras hated Lord Vishnu because they could not rise to that level of spiritual consciousness, just like him. So he says that Daksha is like this. Why is he jealous with Lord Shiva? Because he cannot get uh, because he cannot rise to that level of spiritual consciousness. So because he's not rising, he's not getting the status and recognition. So he says, "Oh, good lady, when wise men make salutations, greetings, and offerings among themselves, they have in mind the indwelling spirit and not the body consciousness, ego centered man. The word Vasudeva indicates pure sattva. And for it is in pure sattva that the Bhagavan reveals himself. He therefore dwells in all as buddhi, the intellect, which is constituted of sattva. I am therefore ever engaged mentally in saluting him who is manifest in the hearts of all. And therefore, there is no need to salute anyone individually. Though Daksha is your father, neither he nor any of his satellites deserve to be visited by you, for he is a persecutor of mine, having insulted me with bad words at the yajna of the Prajapatis, although I had never done any harm to him. It will not be good for you if you reject my advice and go there, for insult from relatives may even cause death to a person who is accustomed to respectful treatment. So he says, Lord Shiva says, so um, when wise people means saintly people, make salutations, greetings, and offerings, they have in mind not the body consciousness nor the ego centered man. So, just as I was saying earlier, when we go to Amma greets us, and when Amma, hugs us and embraces us, it is not the body that she sees, it is the indwelling spirit. If she sees the body, then she should have rejected a lot of people who are poor or not dressed properly, and done a lot of other, just like the Dattan, the leper, who had nothing to offer to her, nor was he handsome. His body was full of pus and wounds. So even Amma welcomed him. Why did Amma do that? Because Amma did not see his body, nor his ego centered. And so Lord Shiva is saying this, giving us a clue. How does a Mahatma see us or another Mahatma? So he says they do not look at the body. They do not see whether we are fat, we are lean, we are, of course, Amma, suppose sometimes she makes a comment, because if we are unhealthy, then she will point us towards the right direction so that we can gain health. But she does not care or give comments about the way we are dressed, or whether dress is sometimes good or bad, and or people who are not dressed properly. So all these things are there. I had said this story earlier, which I'm just reading, that one time when I was assisting Amma, Amma had already sat from 11 o'clock in the morning till like 2 o'clock the next day morning, 2 a.m. And when she was about to get up after such a long session, I was with Amma during the last session, helping the devotees going into Amma's arms. And I had stood there only for 3 hours, and I already got tired. Whereas Amma had been sitting there for more than 14 hours. So you can just imagine. And so I was, in fact, wanted Amma to go, just that I can get rest more than Amma. Personally, I was interested in having my rest than Amma's rest. So as the last line of people were coming into the temple, I called the line monitor and told him to make sure that no more people enter the line and just close the line. Because I also had argued saying that Amma should take rest, but the selfish motive, just like Sati Devi's motive, my motive was there, saying that I was just imposing it on Amma, saying that Amma should take rest, whereas my motive was that I should get rest. So what happened was, I told him, and I knew that Amma would call him and ask him questions about how many people would are left who do not have tokens. So I coached him and told him that this is what you should say, that there are only very few people. Don't give her any numbers. And tell her there are only a few people and they can come back the next day. The next day, meaning that same day, in the again at 11 o'clock, when Amma starts, just in few hours. And also I was feeling angry at those people who came very late. So as I coached him and I told him all these things, and very quietly, of course, Amma listens to all these things. And what happened was, as the darshan was ending, I was I had the full confidence that Amma would be getting up and leaving after this. As soon as there were only like about 5 people in the line left, as I was thinking everything was going according to my plan, Amma called the line monitor and asked him, how many people are left. So he actually said everything that I had coached him, and he told Amma that there were only a few people, and those people who are left will be coming the next day. So Amma, actually started interrogating him more and more when the wimp broke down, and then he gave the real numbers and told that there were like about 100 people who did not have darshan, and neither did have tokens. So Amma said, call all of them. And so I knew that 100 means it will be another hour and a half. So I was feeling so down because of all these things, and not only that my plan did not work, but I have to stand another hour and a half near Amma. And so what happened was, when towards the end of darshan, when really the darshan was ending, I saw this young man who was not even dressed properly, and he had such a dress which was wrinkled and not clean, and he was also smelly, and all these things. And so I was imposing all my anger and my all my judgment on him, thinking that what a kind of a person he is, and why he's not coming dressed properly to Amma. So when his turn came, Amma looked at him for a long time with so much of love and hugged him for a long time. And then tears were flowing from both their eyes, the young man's as well as Amma's. And Amma, after some time, looked at him and asked him, how could you come here? So the man replied, the youth replied that, a doctor had given him some money. So then Amma started explaining the whole thing. Amma said that this youth a few years ago had come to join the ashram. But his parents would not allow him to stay in the ashram. So they came and got him and brought him back to home. And as a result of which, not only that he was not feeling good, and then he slowly started degrading mentally, that he became a mental patient. And so he was taken to a mental asylum, an institution where he was housed there for a couple of years. And when he got out of the mental asylum, the institution, he did not have enough money here because he was not working, nor his parents were rich. So he had to find some work. So as a result, which he asked the people at the institution whether he could be part of the security there. So he was employed as a security personnel in the institution, and he was working there, and his salary was so meager that he used to get like about like $1 a day. And so he was remembering Amma throughout these years. He had Amma in his heart. And he wanted to go and see Amma, but he could not, as his salary was so meager that all the money was spent on food and his accommodation. So he could not go and see Amma for a long time. And then one day, while sitting in his office, he chanced upon a doctor who was talking about Amma, who he heard about talking about Amma, and then he went and talked to the doctor, and then talked about Amma for a long time. And then the doctor knew his desire and asked him, why don't you go and see Amma? So then he explained, I don't have money. I don't make enough money. So he said, okay, I'll give you money. So do one thing. You just go and see Amma and come back the next day for work. So he went, and then with that money he got from the doctor, he came to see Amma. So what happened was Amma was explaining this story to his predicament to everyone, and telling everyone that this is how he came to see me. So then after that, when I heard this, I felt really, so bad about myself for having judged him, and having the fact that thinking that looking at him, that he is such a vile person, a person who would not even dress properly, for he did not even have money to buy proper dress. So many times, we have this judgment about people who do not have the proper money or facility to buy dress, or in such dire circumstances. So, for Amma, Amma knows the real condition, and she understands their state of mind. And this young man, as I was saying, as he was leaving, Amma asked me to make sure that he was given food, for it was, the kitchen had closed. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 3:15 in the morning. So I had to go to the kitchen after the darshan was over, then feed him. And at that same time, Amma called another person, and who was housing the guests. So Amma called him and asked him to house this young boy, youth. And so what happened, he took him to his room. So the next day I asked him what happened. So he said that he slept for a couple of hours, then left early in the morning so that he could catch a bus and go back to work the same day. And then that ashram resident was explaining to me how Amma has asked him to house so many people like this young man. I mean, people who are on the verge of committing suicide, people who do not have money, people who are completely depressed, and all these things. And he said the only thing that makes them not take away their lives is Amma's love. If Amma's love for them had not been there, they would have just gone away from their body. So here's Lord Shiva. That's what Lord Shiva was saying. That these people, great beings, do not have the body. They do not see the outward appearance of the body. They see the only indwelling spirit, and not the body consciousness or the ego-centered man. And he says the word Vasudeva, and Vasus means it's all, Deva means God, or Vasus means all the beings. So that is the meaning of, literal meaning of Vasudeva. And he says it indicates pure sattva. It is a very sattvic word. So for it is in pure sattva that the Bhagavan reveals in himself. So out of the three gunas, which is sattva, rajas, and tamas. So there is a question that is often asked: why do you need sattva guna? Why can't you have tamo guna and rajo guna? So you can have that, but it won't help you to go to your divine consciousness or divinity within you. So what helps is sattva, pure sattva. So that's what Lord Shiva says here. So he, therefore, that is Lord Vasudeva. So Lord Vasudeva is another name for Vishnu. So he is talking about himself. So he's, again, as I said, he's not talking about Lord Vishnu, but he is talking about himself. But he is calling Vasudeva as somebody else than him, so that people understand that they are not different. So he says he dwells, Vasudeva dwells in all as the buddhi, the intellect, which is constituted of sattva. So only if you have a good buddhi, that is intellect, as Amma says, the intellect to understand, to discriminate. It's not like one who is very smart. Amma says that people can be really smart and have good understanding, just like a scientist. But an ant can, differentiate between salt and scientists cannot. So this is indicating here also that the intellect which discriminates between real and unreal, between divine and non-divine, so that intellect is what is most important. So that intellect is constituted of sattva, the guna, the pure guna. And he says, I am therefore ever engaged mentally in saluting him who manifests in the hearts of all. And therefore, there is no need to salute anyone individually. So he's saying, in my mind, in my heart, I'm always bowing down to that supreme being, and the supreme being which is manifests in other people also. So therefore I don't have to salute anybody else individually, because it's just like the example of Amma. When you pour water in the root, the whole tree gets it. So similarly, when he salutes the Supreme, that salutations goes to everyone. So he says, though Daksha is your father, neither he nor any of his satellites deserve to be visited by you, for he is a persecutor of mine. And having insulted me with bad words at the yajna of the Prajapatis, although I had never done any harm to him, it will not be good if you reject my advice and go there, for insult from relatives may even cause death to a person who is accustomed to respectful treatment. So he's saying that, Daksha and your father does not deserve to be visited by you. Forget about me, but you should not even go there. Why? Because he has insulted me through bad words. And so what will he do? He will not show respect to you, and he will not treat you properly. So what happens because of that? He says insult from relatives may even cause death to a person who's accustomed to respectful treatment. So if you have got used to respectful treatment, and if they don't treat you respectfully, that may even cause death, which is an indicator of what is going to happen to Sati Devi. So Lord Shiva says, don't go there and don't visit this your father. Um, so he says that if you go there, this is what's going to happen, and this will be what your future will be. So please do not go there. So after saying this, uh, Lord Shiva just sat quietly, not saying anything. So Lord goes into maunam, into silence. So we will look into it later, that to what happens to Sati Devi, and the story after that in the next session. And unfortunately, today I will not be able to do the bhajans. So we will close this session with the prayer. Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu and Asatoma Sadgamaya. And we will do that prayer now. Conclude the session with that. So there will not be any bhajans or arati after this. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Amriteshwari Namah. Thank you all. Namaskar.